Hey,
Hello. How's it
how's it
going?
going? What's this
Good.
cat?
Oh, it's just the Mets.
Met.
All right, I'm here today with Maggie, our favorite player from season two. So you guys probably know her from season two, but on All Stars, Maggie designed the logo on like all the marketing materials. So just a lot of the stuff that we posted online and the graphics were all designed by her. So we're here today just to talk to her a little bit like her process and what went into all of that.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to think about how to make the All Stars logo a lot different than past logos, and really give All Stars kind of that punchy, different, intense uh, feel that it deserves. So, basically, Ian approached me and was like, "Hey, we're gonna need a logo for this thing, aren't we?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
The,
so."
Yeah. I was like, it's gonna need to be really good too.
And I think I don't even remember, Ian, how it all started. But oh, yeah, I showed the right screen. But we had talked about like what can we do to make the logo special. And the first thing I did was look at all the other college Survivor and look at actual Survivor logos. And I was inspired by the figures because we hadn't done that yet.
Yeah,
And
like
then
from heroes versus villains, right?
yeah, yeah. And it sort of dawned on me like how cool would it be if it was actually the cast. And so then of course that was like a whole rabbit hole from there. And I think the other thing about the logos that I was noticing was like red is such a common color of revenge. But of course, we couldn't look too much like Maryland or too much like Ohio State. So we kind of had to find a balance that didn't lean towards either of those schools' colors. So we just were like, well, what if we do black and blue with minimal red? So yeah, I can kind of show you. Here you all are, our wonderful friends, and their debunking of the logo. Um, yeah, I think so. After we had decided to do the figures, it was definitely how do we make them
Wait, could you explain
look?
real quick what are we looking at for people who don't know? Like this is your personal website, you know?
Oh,
Like
yes,
like where can
yes.
people go to find this information if they're curious?
Yes, this is my personal website. Thanks for the plug. I do art direction as my job full time. So this was really fun to get to work on as like a side project because it's kind of my jam. It's my favorite thing. It's like art meets strategy. So yeah, this is my personal website, maggielemak.com. And yeah, I put this on here just like the other things I work on. And I did kind of like walk you through kind of all the decisions that went into it. Um, and yeah, we just were like, let's start with the cast. And we kind of went back and forth with the cast members to make sure they didn't look too much like people we knew. Like Dylan had a hat at one point, and we were like, can't do that, too obvious.
I remember like when you first showed to me, I was like, oh, they all look, it's particularly Jackson. If you go to Jackson,
Yes.
I remember being like, that's the most distinctive neckline. Everyone will know it's him. But most people didn't figure out it was him. But I think it's just because I've like watched so much footage that like my brain with this was just completely messed up and I like was a bad judge of this. I tested it on my brother and he like could only get a couple of people, and that's when I knew we were okay.
Yeah, I also think like when you know people in person, you have such a better sense for like their scale. As weird as that sounds. So I feel like all of us looking at them, we have different information just from actually being around people. Um,
Where did you get these like silhouettes from? Like, was it from footage or what picture? I don't remember.
yeah, so and I don't want to open the file, but I literally took screenshots of like all you had sent me this like intro clip of because the cast was never all lined up. You
Yeah,
didn't
we
have
never did a cast picture, right?
so I kind of had to like piece it together from all these screenshots that I took. And it started to get wider and wider and wider. And I was like, oh God, like we kind of have to crunch them in a bit more. So that's why, like, we've got some overlap, and yeah, different people have different details to make them more or less obvious. So obviously the fanny pack's pretty good giveaway for Brie.
I loved like
Uh,
the handshake and like the squatting. It really gave it a level of realism. Like it felt like this is really what it was like when they were all standing there.
and I think the handshake was also significant because Dylan and Sarah had actually never met, if I remember correctly.
Before this. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. And then yeah, Crouching Girl, the infamous Crouching Girl.
If only it could have turned out to be Andrew Crouch. How good would that have been?
Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah, it's so funny. Like I feel like everyone is so distinct. Like to me, Jesse was really obvious to me. I don't know,
Yeah,
something
I
about
thought
her fashion.
Emily B also something about the way she's standing, I thought was very
Yes.
distinctive as well.
Yes. And then I don't know, the headband on AJ here. And Bailey's profile, given how much I've seen her, I'm like, it's just so obvious to me. And then Lucy always has those little shirts. So her little edge of her shirt flipped up. I was like, if you know Lucy, I feel like that stood out. But anyway, so yeah, we traced all these people. I did it by hand, and then I put different line weights in there. And then I slapped it on this logo template we've been kind of working with. And I was like, it needs something else. And so I actually took the cast and flipped it down, which made the fire down here. So I can scroll down to that.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
and
is
I
the
guess
coolest thing.
with the silhouettes, there was a lot of inspiration, obviously, from the former Survivor logos, but also like I just remember playing SSX Tricky as a kid, and like for me, it was always like interesting, and then of course the way that they're like unlocked characters and all the silhouettes and Pokemon, and I know we had played Mario Kart like with Sam and Abby around that time period, and I was like, oh, like couldn't we do that for Survivor?
Oh,
um
is that where you got the idea for the stats from?
yeah, this,
Oh, that's so cool.
because you kind of like pick, like all of them are sort of shitty in their own right, but all of them are kind of great,
Yeah. Do
and
you have
everyone has preference.
do you have those cards on this page somewhere?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, those are all the inspiration that led to these cards. And so, oh, this is the Instagram post, so let's not go there. But yeah, you can kind of see where the tick marks come from here. And I think what's cool about these is we actually had every cast member rank themselves on these things based on 21 points across those 7 sections or so. And then we had someone else rate them as well to kind of
Balance it out.
balance it out.
Could
So
you do you want to like go through one card and just explain what like each little thing meant to you, you know?
yes,
I know
yes,
there was
let's do
people
that.
curious about that.
So, okay. These aren't as high res as, let's go to the Instagram actually, for we'll go to who has a lot? Maybe Nick,
Yeah, Nick probably has a decent amount of stuff on his.
or Leia actually has decent too. Yeah, Nick has the most, I think. Oh, and I'll go to Leia after this. So yeah, so I was trying to think about, I don't know, I just can't help. I like information. I like Excel sheets. I like organizing. So when I was thinking about like, oh, like I guess what goes into being an all stars player? And I tried to like over summarize what some of these buckets might be that are components of every player to a degree. So I'm going to start in this section. So we have loyalty, physicality, and to me, loyalty is pretty obvious. Physicality, like, can you show up in games? Like, are you bulky? Logic, pretty self-explanatory. Nerve, like, will you go there or not? Sanity, like, can you keep it cool or are you a little paranoid? Charisma speaks for itself. And then luck, of course, we cannot forget luck. That's a big factor in Survivor. And so those were kind of how the different buckets that people spread their points into. And then up here we have days played, challenge record, votes against your season, and then your place in your season. But all this in mind, like, let's say this is what your card is, there are these other factors that come into play, which are you a good liar or not? Which is what actor represents. Do your relationships from outside of the game impact your relationships in the game? And that's what bias is. And then basically, do you let your emotions impact your decision making? The other things that are on the card here are like accolades, so to speak. So we've got a necklace for if you won immunity. And then we've got a little idol shape. And
So
we
does that mean
actually,
he won 2 individual immunities in his
he
season?
won, yeah, 2 individual immunities. And again, these cards are based on their former season, not all stars. And so, yeah, those represent immunity. And then this represents an idol. And there, it goes even further because a minus next to an idol was like a misplay of an idol.
Oh, like she played it wrong.
Yeah. And then the rock was if you drew, like
You
if you
drew
went to rock.
rocks. Yeah.
And so of course we've got
Cool.
Crouch, who has a black rock.
Didn't Emily B have a Lorax or something also?
Oh yeah, I did that just for fun. Wait, no, Emily B, my B. Yeah, we just so yeah,
That's
those are
great.
kind of the treasure, little hidden treasures.
And how long did all of this take you?
So I am pretty quick at graphic design, and I actually had made a version of these cards and then I couldn't find the file, so I redid them. Maybe a couple hours, and then with all the revisions, that took a bit longer.
How long do you think the logo took you from like start to finish? Because there was a couple different versions. Like I remember seeing a version where like the Revenge Tour was like blue, or there was a few different versions, definitely.
Yeah, I would say maybe like 10 hours.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
remember because I texted you about this around the time I was finishing season 4, and I was like, at the end of season 4, we need to have an All Stars logo. And so Maggie was actually the first person to see some of the very first like trailer because I sent it to her and said, I think it had a placeholder logo or something. And I was like, this is what
Yeah.
it's gonna look like if this like helps you, inspires you in some way.
Yeah, and I think it was just really fun to think through because I had attended some of the tribal councils during the season that haven't aired yet, and I could feel the intensity of what was going on and was like, "Oh my God, like this is so much more intense than anything I've seen." And there's one particular scene that we actually alluded to in a former comment that we can point that out later. That also just made me like, this thing needs to be intense because it is the revenge tour. So you
Has that
guys,
scene not happened yet?
no, you know the one I'm talking
I'm
about.
pretty sure I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like the scene, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah.
I put an emoji in one of the captions that alluded to it.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to look
Mhm.
for that. I don't even know what
Yeah.
that is. Interesting.
Yep, yep. So then yeah, the next thing was, all right, we know we want to put red in this logo. So the whole surroundings needed to be blue. So I also thought about, what signals all stars and surviving on an island more than those tick marks that people carve into trees to keep track of the days that they'd been there. And then we're season 5. It was perfect. So all around here, there's like these tick marks of like another day survived, another day survived. So that's what this pattern is
And those are
actually.
like on the deep part of the logo too, right?
Yep, yep. They're in the background of the logo. Um, So yes, of course, we got that. And then actually in all these graphics too, there's this really thin line of footprints. You can't totally see it, but it's really faint.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
what does that represent to you?
So to me, like the black sand beach was like, it just feels ominous and it feels like the ash of all the players before you. It's very dramatic. And then of course, like the single line of footprints is like everyone else has kind of been like washed out to sea and drowned. And then you're standing on the beach. So it's like the soul, the footsteps of the winner is what that represents. So kind of dramatic, but I liked it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So yeah, here's the color breakdown for those of you who are interested. Mostly blue. Here were some inspiration photos that led to kind of all the marketing stuff. And these are all unsplash.com. Great website. Like, gotta recommend it for all your royalty-free imagery needs. Here you go. And then yeah, this is the next thing that is, I think, the least known thing about the logo, which is that I actually took the cast and then I took the shadow of the cast, if you can imagine, and I flipped it down to create the fire. So like, here's Cooper's head here, and this is also Cooper, and this is also Cooper, and this is also Cooper. So I thought that was kind of
And
symbolic
that
of
creates
how,
this fire down here.
yeah. And so it was supposed to be that, like, yeah, they're playing this game, but they also chose to be here. And so the fire doesn't exist without that choice to play the game.
Oh, wow. I like that a lot. Like like you're the creator of your own destruction type of
Oh,
thing.
yeah. And
That's
the
great.
shadows only exist when you're standing near a fire. Like the fire creates, there's a lot there.
I love that. That's so cool.
Read into it how you will. So, so yeah, that's kind of the logo. That's the story. And I just gotta say, this whole video of you guys dissecting the logo and the cast was like beyond like the wildest dreams of this logo, because it was exactly what we wanted to do. Like we wanted there to be this hype of like, oh my God, who is that? And then there's like an hour-long video. I freaked out. I was like, this is
Of
maybe the
people
best day.
guessing. Yeah. People trying to
Yeah.
guess who it was.
Yeah. So thank you for doing that. It's very cool to see. And I guess I'll say thank you to Ian too for allowing me to be part of this. Obviously, wish I could have been a part of All Stars, but this was a really special way to be able to be a part of the magic that you created. So
Oh,
thanks
I
for
mean,
letting me do it.
thank you. Like, um not that the logos for the other seasons aren't super cool also, because they definitely are, but I always was like just imagining like I didn't know what I was imagining. I just wanted it to be like the coolest logo possible. And I think that's basically what I told you. And then it turned out
Yeah.
to be like even better than whatever I could have imagined. It was even cooler than that.
Well,
So,
that's sweet.
I think it turned out basically perfectly. And it definitely just like every time it comes on the screen, I feel like it sets the tone for like the whole enterprise. Like the first time it came up at the end of season 4, I think that right from the get-go, you're like, oh, this means business. Like this is gonna be
Yeah.
some serious shit. Like playtime is over, you know?
Yeah. Playtime is over. Now you're in the black sand beach waiting to be drowned. So watch
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Well, is there
They're coming.
anywhere that people could find like any of your other work or anything like
Oh
that?
my goodness. Yeah, it's definitely uh if people dig, they can find some pretty funny stuff on YouTube. But I highly recommend my website, and it's this.
So
And
there
then
you
you can
go.
add it there.
Yes. There you go. This has been, interview with Maggie, the designer, logo designer. So yeah, hope that you've enjoyed the logo and all the promo materials as much as we have, and stay tuned for, more All-Stars and more episodes coming soon. Thank you
Yeah,
for
hold on to
thanks
your
for
chair.
thanks for having us, Maggie.
See ya.